Hello! It's me! Janet, guys, look at this. Look at this. Can you see? Look at that. It's almost not bad. Almost successfully did a latte art. To be fair, this wasn't actually an espresso that I poured the milk into. It was like a pre-mixed chai. So it was like super concentrated tea and sugar basically. And then I shook the bottle first so that it would be foamy. Which means that there's hope for me yet. Anyway, it's Phoenix Wright time. All rise. Oh, I'm not in the right window. Okay, October 18th, 11:08 a.m. District Court Defendant Lobby number 3. Mr. Powers? Yes? Tell me straight. Were you really in your dressing room? You didn't go to the studio? I didn't go to the studio. I was sleeping, honest. So who was the Steel Samurai in that security photo? How should I know? The Steel Samurai costume was off in the corner of the dressing room. Anyone could have walked in and taken it, really. What? You should take better care of that stuff. I couldn't imagine anyone would want to steal a Steel Samurai costume. So, where does this leave me? It doesn't look good. Yeah. You're the only likely suspect right now. Nick! What are we gonna do? First, we play for more time. We'll start targeting someone else that could conceivably have done this. Right! And it'll take them so long to shoot us down that we get another day. Right. Oh, right. But if we pick the wrong person, we might lose the spot, on the spot. Why is this all bubbly? You don't sound very optimistic. I'm not optimistic at all, actually. Hey, Nick. It's time. Okay, let's go. What does that mean? Please don't sigh like that. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Mr. Will Powers. Mr. Edgeworth, will you present the prosecution's thoughts on this matter? The prosecution's thoughts are simple. Nothing has changed. The other person who went to the studio was a boy of roughly 10 years of age. The photo we do have may not be hard evidence. But there is still no one else that could have committed this crime. I call for a verdict of guilty for the defendant, Mr. Will Powers. Very well. Mr. Wright, your thoughts? The defense disagrees with the prosecution's claim. There is another person who could have committed this crime. Order. Interesting. Let us hear who you have in mind. However, be aware that this court does not look kindly on accusing the innocent. If you accuse someone who is obviously innocent, you will be penalized. Right, great. As if the stakes weren't high enough. So, who was this person other than Mr. Powers that could have committed murder? A security lady? Is there any reason it could have been the assistant? I don't think so. The security lady has the means. It was the security lady, Wendy Oldbag.
Who?
The steel samurai is dragging his leg in this picture. That means whoever was in the suit knew about that morning's injury. Maybe because they had been watching the action scene run through. There was only one person other than Powers and Hammer who knew about the injury. The security lady, Oldbag.
What? Whippersnapper.
Order! Order! Is this true, Oldbag?
Oldbag? That's Miss Oldbag to you.
Miss Oldbag was standing guard alone at the main gate. She was by herself. In other words, she has no alibi. She could have briefly left her post to steal the steel samurai costume, then slipped into Studio 1, the scene of the murder. Well, why would she go through the trouble of wearing the steel samurai costume? Simple, Your Honor. She knew the camera at the gate would take her picture. If she was in his costume, she could point the finger at Mr. Powers. I see. Excellent deductive reasoning, Mr. Wright. Oh yeah, right here. Sherlock Holmes too, baby. Sherlock Holmes the second. That's odd. Isn't this the part where Edgeworth pounces? Doesn't he usually jump up with an objection of some new damning evidence? Well, Mr. Edgeworth, does the prosecution have an opinion on this matter? The prosecution has no meaningful objections at this time.
What? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, so you all think I did it? Is that it? Edgy boy, don't just sit there. Do something.
What's my move? Maybe now's my chance to take this the whole way? I think I should give her a break. Because I don't think she actually did it. I just needed a scapegoat so that there's more to investigate. I guess this does kind of make it look like she's the killer. Funny, I feel bad for her all of a sudden. It's true that the witness could have conceivably had committed this crime. Yet we must not forget that the victim was an action hero. As formidable as her personality may be, I doubt she'd be strong enough. Uh-oh. He removes her from consideration. That means Mr. Powers is it. Sorry, Windbag, but I don't have a choice. The very same reasoning that makes Mr. Powers the suspect in this case can be used to cast doubt on Mrs. Oldbag's actions that day.
Why would I do something so horrible to poor Hammer?
You forget that Mr. Powers lacks a clear motive too. Indeed. That did it. Now Windbag is one of the suspects. No hard feelings, I hope.
Wait just a minute! What about the other person who we went to the studio? The boy! The one whose photo I erased.
He's only a grade schooler though, as you said. 2nd or 3rd grade, was it?
That doesn't matter. When I was that age, I could pin my old man in 10 seconds, tops.
Your thoughts, Mr. Wright? That boy is not the killer.
What? How can you be so sure? Or is it be nice to the kids and mean to your elders day? Whippersnapper!
I have proof.
Proof?
Indeed. Then let's see this proof, Mr. Wright. You have proof that shows the boy could not have committed this murder. The photo? It's pretty obviously not a child. Is that it? What else? Yeah. I think. Oh, whoops, wrong button. There we go. Pretty sure it's this. Your Honor! The murder weapon was the samurai spear. That very spear shown here in this photo. How could the boy have taken the spear? It's impossible. I see. Well, would the witness care to comment on this? I don't— what? That's not the deduction I was making. The windbag, speechless. This has got to be a first. Very well. This court will suspend the proceedings on the current trial for today. Mr. Edgeworth, please find out more about your witness, Miss Windy— what was her name? Something old bag, Your Honor. Oh, sorry. Something old bag, Your Honor. Then the prosecution will look further into this old bag before we continue. That is all. This court is adjourned.
Wait a second! I'm not going to just sit here while you run off barking up the wrong tree. Me! I'm talking!
Oh man, that's a good face.
Oh great. Stop the presses. The windbag wants to talk.
Miss Oldbag, what is this all about? Have you omitted something from your testimony?
Actually, if you must know, there's something I was told not to talk about.
Not to talk about? By whom? Huh? You mean it wasn't Edgeworth who told her not to talk? Well, testify. New info.
Bubble Studios wanted me to keep quiet about something. There were some other people at the studio on the day of the murder. They said they had nothing to do with it, see? So they told me to just pretend they hadn't been at the studio that day. But if you're going to go accusing me, I'm not letting them get away scot-free.
Miss Oldbag, this is crucial information. Why did you keep this from the court until now?
Ain't you been listening? They told me to shut my trap, and I always do what I'm told.
No, this isn't a bad dream, Your Honor. Witness the power of the old bag. Mr. Wright, your cross-examination.
Bubble Studios wanted me to keep quiet about something. There were some other people at the studios on the day of the murder. They said they had nothing to do with it, see? Let's go back and press this statement.
Who are these people?
Well, the director and the producer for starters.
The director? We should have known something was fishy. How could they have done a run-through of their action scene without a director? Of course.
Yes, well, I was surprised no one asked about it.
So, where were these people?
The director was in the employee area all morning for the run-through. He joined the producer around lunchtime and they had a meeting after that.
Where?
Oh, it's the Studio 2 trailer.
Studio 2? There was a Studio 2?
Well, if you look at the guide map, here it is. You go through the gate and all the way to the left.
The path where the monkey's head was fallen over. Well, Mr. Wright, would you like to continue the cross-examination? I think I've already asked all my questions, but... continue.
They said they had nothing to do with it, see? So they told me to just pretend they hadn't been at the studios that day. But if you're going to go accusing me, I'm not gonna get ya. Let's ask about that. Miss Oldbag, this is a trial for murder.
I know that, silly.
Still, they were pretty convincing about having nothing to do with it. And they gave me a little bonus on the side.
So you got your bonus and you still talked. I think I've asked all the questions I have.
Fine, take a break.
Your Honor, we've learned there were others at the Global Studios on the day in question. The director and the producer and some bigwigs were all present. Yet, as we stand here, they have not been questioned. I hold that it is impossible to declare a verdict on the defendant, Mr. Powers. The court acknowledges the defense's point. The prosecution will gather more information about the witness, Miss Oldbag, and more information about these other people who we have just been told of. Ooh, Edgeworth not happy.
I understand, Your Honor.
This ends the day's proceedings in the trial of Mr. Will Powers. That is all. This court is adjourned. October 18, 1:04 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 3. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Wright. I was right to ask you to defend me.
Aw, really? It's nothing. Grin. Oh, or should I?
We'll both be going to the studios to do some more investigating. We have to find out more about this director and producer. They'll be turning up in the next trial as witnesses for certain. So now's my chance to get material for the cross-examination.
So Nick, have we figured out just who it was in that steel samurai costume? Could it really have been old Windbag?
What do you think, Mr. Powers? I don't think it was her, really.
Neither do I, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Look, I was just buying time back there. Someone had to be the bad guy for a bit to take the pressure off Mr. Powers.
Poor old Windbag. I kind of feel sorry for her.
Well, she wasn't winning any ports in there with or without my accusation. Okay, let's get down to the studios.
Right! We'll be back to visit you soon.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. Be continued. October 18th, Wright & Co. Law Offices. Phew, what a day.
Sorry, I want to Snapchat.
Start of a new chapter. And Steel Samurai. Case. Choo. Send. Send. Someone random added me and just keeps on sending me Snapchats that are like, someone hit me up. Someone hit me up. It's interesting. Ooh, what's this? Possibly a new tutoring job? Flag that for later. Alright, back to the game.
This is no time for relaxing, Nick. Say, do you think WP's got a chance?
I hate that. WP is so much longer than Will Powers. I guess that really depends on the people we found out about in today's trial.
The director and the producer.
Yeah, them.
Well, what are we doing here then? Let's get to the studios.
Do 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 do. October 18th, 2:16 p.m. Global Studios, main gate.
No one's here.
Right, now that they have Old Bag in custody. I guess they don't have anyone else to replace her.
Hey, in the guard station, look! She left her donuts.
What? I wasn't going to eat them. Yes, you were. That's Dale! Day-old donuts, no bueno. Or at least not as bueno. Just poke around a little bit and see if we can find any. Computer that runs studio security cameras. Huh? It looks like it's been turned off for the day. An overhead map of the studios. Right from here is the employee area. To the left are the actual film studios. Alright, I don't think there's gonna be anything. Merv. Let's check out the employee area first, just because it's kind of a dead end. October 18th, Global Studios employee area.
Look, it's that assistant girl. Hey! Hi, WP's lawyers, right? I heard about the trial. Great job, guys.
Oh, oh ho ho, don't mention it.
Is it true they caught the security lady?
Oh, oh, oh ho ho.
Actually, she just called me. She told me to cover up that drain.
You mean that one? Wow, what a mess.
I know. I'm not so good with handiwork. Some assistant, right?
Yeah, but do you work on, yeah, but you do work on the props and backdrops, right? Oh, that was, I don't know what I'm doing. I had such a hard time reading that sentence.
Right. Just, lots of times they end up looking worse than they did before I fix them. Oh? Oh! Well, I'm sure these things happen. Nothing to worry yourself about. You're right, I won't.
Personally, I think she should worry at least a little bit more.
If you'll excuse me, I have to go to the guard station. I'm supposed to fill in for Miss Oldbag. Right! See you later then! Good luck with your investigation.
I went to examine this.
So the fanboy they were talking about in the trial today, he came in through that drain?
So it seems. I guess they covered it up in a hurry.
Hey! Hey, Nick! If that drain's covered, the boy won't be able to get in.
Yeah, I think that was the idea.
I feel kinda sorry for him though, don't you?
What? You want to rip the grate off?
Really, Nick? We can?
Whoa, she's serious. Uh-oh. I want to open it. Well, I guess some things are just made to be broken.
Yay! You know, Nick, you're pretty swell sometimes.
Sometimes?
Hey, yeah!
There. That should make the kids happy. Things we do. If we get in trouble for that, I'm pointing the finger at Maya. Can I examine this food? The remains of the other day's lunch are scattered around. Everyone was probably too shocked to clean up. There's a T-bone on the plates, minus the steak. Oh, on one of the plates. The door to the dressing room. It's not locked.
Hey, Nick! Let's go in! Maybe there's something we'll be able to steal.
Hey, we're not thieves!
But we did take that card key.
Well, we borrowed that. There's a difference. Let's check the room. October 18th, Global Studios. Dressing room no number.
This is where the steel samurai costume was on the day of the murder.
That's what Mr. Powers says, at least. I guess they snuck in and took it while he was sleeping.
But Nick, what if Mr. Powers hadn't been sleeping? I wonder what the killer was planning on doing then.
Huh. He's got a point. Examine. There's a bunch of snacks on the table. They must give these out to the employees. Some tea and cookies.
Wait, Nick!
What now?
These snacks! They've passed their expiration date!
Then don't eat them. They're snacks. They're meant to be eaten. Same. Alright, I don't think there's anything new here. There's some regular— oops, that's not what I meant to click. Move. Engage.
Oh, hello. Oh, you look a little out of place. It's the clothes, isn't it? I thought my camo vest might do the trick. Kind of an alternative guard fashion thing.
Anything to talk to her about? Let's ask about the fanboy.
Do kids sneak in here a lot? Well, I don't think there's that many of them, but I do see one in particular a bunch. He's always gawking at the sets or snapping pictures. You should see old Windbag's eyes flash when she sees him. She has a bit of trouble catching him, though.
Studios, we'll get to the hot button question later. So, how are the studios doing?
There's police wandering everywhere. It's terrible. They won't even let me clean up. Don't want me disturbing evidence. I haven't even cleaned up our lunch plates from the day of the murder.
You mean those plates with the steak bones left over on them? In the employee area? That sentence went on longer than I expected.
Yeah, can you believe it?
I heard something at the trial today. They said that the director and producer were here on the day of the murder.
Oh, sorry. I was in the prop storage room, so I didn't see them. I guess they were here, though. The studio head seemed pretty eager to keep us quiet.
So they were trying to protect the director?
More the producer, really. The producer's our real star here. She saved these studios from the brink of disaster and kept them running. I don't think we'd still be in business if it weren't for that producer.
The producer, huh? Okay. Trying to show her any evidence? Guys, that... Actually, maybe... See what you have to say about this. Say, you work with the props, right? About that murder weapon.
You mean the samurai spear? Yeah, it's a prop, but it's still pretty heavy. I hate having to carry that thing around.
So you'd have to be pretty strong to use that as a weapon, it sounds like. Why is Mr. Powers the only person I can think of? Alright, let's move. That says Studio 1. Oh, hey! October 18th, Studio 1 entrance.
Hey, Nick. It looks like Detective Gumshoe isn't here today.
You're right. He's probably up to his neck in paperwork after the commotion at today's trial.
So, Nick, remember that Studio 2 we heard about at the trial today? It was down that path with the fallen tree, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
Maybe the director and the rest of them are there today. Now's our chance, Nick. Let's check it out.
Okie dokie. Let's go. October 18th, Studio 2, entrance. This place is deserted.
Crash. Eek! Nick! What was that noise? It sounded like it came from the inside of the trailer.
Someone must be inside.
Hello?
No answer.
Pretty suspicious if you ask me, Nick. Let's go in.
I'm not sure we should be barging in. Huh? It's locked.
What? Don't we have a key?
No, but there's probably one in the guard station at the main gate. Yeah, they definitely do make scary faces. They're pretty hilarious scary faces, though. Like, disturbing to look at, but hilarious.
Then what are we waiting for? Let's borrow it.
If they'll let us. Okay. Oh, let's examine this first. Take a little peeky peek. Looks like 2 people eat here. There's nothing left on the plates.
Hey, so they ate T-bone steaks too.
What is it with steaks around here?
Hey, there's always room for steak, but something does seem out of place.
What?
I don't know, it just feels odd.
Like there's no bones on the plate? An incinerator. Apparently they just put this in. It's already covered in soot. They must not clean it much. A light van for moving staff and equipment around. They've kept it in pretty good shape. Looks like it'd be a fun ride.
Well, let's go for a drive.
Sure, if I had a license.
Nick, you don't have a driver's license?
But look, I have this.
Why are you showing me your attorney's badge, Nick?
Alright, let's try to move on. Because this music is telling me to move. Oh, not anymore. Main gate. Let's see if she'll just give us the key if we ask. Nope. Let's see if we can just find the key if we look. The computer that runs the studio security cameras. Huh? It looks like it's been turned off for the day. What if I, like, poke it a little higher up so it's not on the computer directly? The security guard station. I can see the computer that runs the security cameras.
Oh, please don't touch anything in there. The security lady would knock the... uh-oh. the stuffing out of me if she knew.
I really want the key to that trailer. Maybe next time. I'm just gonna do a quick save! Alright, let's poke around a little bit more. Let's check Studio 1. October 18th, Studio 1.
I don't really want to be in here.
Yeah, it's a murder scene.
I want to go someplace else. Nick?
What? Is this okay? I don't think there's actually anything new for me to look at, so that's fine. We'll leave Maya if you are so whiny about being at a murder scene. Let's check the employee area again now that we've opened that gate. Maybe some sneaky child will have sneakied in. Nope. Alright. Maybe we should go talk to Powers in the detention center then. Because we haven't done that since the trial. October 18th, detention center. Visitors room. I keep expecting there to be numbers, like visitors room 1, and then I have my tone of voice doesn't match. Oh, Mr. Wright, thank you for earlier. Not at all. We got lucky, to tell the truth.
You can say that again.
Let's not.
So, WP. Do you have any leads that might get us going in the right direction?
Sorry, but no.
Be sure to tell us anything that comes to mind, no matter how small.
We can't rely on getting lucky again tomorrow. Yes. Talk to him about the producers. Or the director. Was the director president? Was the director the president? Was the director present at the morning run-through? Yes, he was. He was directing how the Steel Samurai and the Evil Magistrate should move.
Why didn't you tell us that before?
Well, just the studio asked us to keep quiet.
That has nothing to do with this. I hate to repeat myself, but Nick here is a newbie lawyer, fresh off the bar. When he loses, he's going to lose big.
I see. Whose side is she on?
You aren't hiding anything else from us, are you?
Thank you. I wanted to give him like a dopey voice because of his characterization of being like the most mild-mannered but like terrifying looking person. No, I sure hope not. You should hear my judge voice later. You were fanboys sneak into the studios often? No, not that I know of. That security lady is pretty strict with them.
But in today's testimony, didn't she say they were often hanging around?
The kids really love the Steel Samurai. They sneak past when she's not looking, I guess. Alright. Let's go. Is there anything we could show him? Present evidence? Yeah, I don't think so. Alright. Let's mosey on back to the studio. He's, yeah, definitely a sheep and wolf's lion fur. He plays the burly Steel Samurai character, in this show. Do you have anything else to say to us? Nope. Check the employee area. I'm waiting for this kid to show up. Still nothing. Dressing room? Oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
WTF?
Who are you dudes? LMAO.
Huh? Wait, you first. Who are you?
You look pretty suspicious to me. Whatever, lamers. How can you not know the great Salmonella? I make the lead show. Steel Samurai, mine. RTFC, read the film credits. Really? You're the Salmonella? I'm so sorry. You looked so sorry. No, quite alright, really. It's fine. ROFL. What is it? This is my new favorite character to voice. You know, on closer inspection. Yeah. Hot. Hey, do you do a lot of cosplay? 'Cause that costume rocks.
Roxors? What? Hey, you're drooling!
Huh? LOL. Buffer overrun. You've triggered my creative powers. Yes, it's coming to me. Pink Princess. A sequel to the Seal Samurai. Pink Princess, warrior of little old Tokyo. ROFL, LMAO. Pink Princess. Why's it gotta be little old Tokyo? Why can't I have a cool name like Neo Old Tokyo? Maya, we really need to talk about cool. God. This guy. Day of the crime, let's ask him about it. So what is this hat? I don't understand. Did you notice anything unusual on the day of the murder? Oh, I know who you dudes are. The security lady told you about us, eh? That's right. It was a pretty regular day. We had a run-through for an action scene in the morning. Then a meeting from lunchtime in the Studio 2 trailer. I was so busy I didn't even get a chance to eat lunch. Shit face. A T-bone steak, was it? Yeah, suckers. I hate missing out on food. Nick, what does suckers mean? No idea. Anyway, I was in a meeting from noon till after 4. The producer and some bigwigs from the network. Mr. Hammer's time of death was estimated at 2:30 p.m. If he's telling the truth, that meeting gives him an alibi. Ask about the producer. About the producer who was at the meeting with you. Oh, you mean Dee Vasquez? She's a genius. Mad skills all the way. Scary though. She brought these studios back from the brink of destruction. She's the one who made it possible for me to make the Steel Samurai. Why is this running so slow all of a sudden? You had a meeting with her on the day of the murder, right? Yeah, we were together from noon till 4 p.m. the whole time. Who exactly are those bigwigs people you keep people keep mentioning? Oh, the boss over at the network and some sponsors. A few production guys. Also a few production guys. They piled into a limousine and got here right around noon. Major tension. Were all of them with you the entire time? Yeah, yeah, unfortunately. They're all gray-haired geezers. Ugh. Sounds like they'd all be reliable witnesses. I guess that's it. Do we have anything to present him that he might say something about? No. Alright, I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're gross. Ah, no, she's here.
Aha! Do again! Eek! How rude, acting like you've seen a ghost.
You certainly got back to your post quickly.
Oh, the police took me away, they did. They pulled out a spare Steel Samurai costume. Told me to put it on. Can you imagine? How could I, a sweet little old lady, wear a giant suit like that? Mr. Powers is pretty tall. As soon as they saw there was no way I could wear it, they let me go.
I guess that would rule out her being the murderer. Sorry, just saving. There we go.
Anyway. Know this, whippersnappers. This old lady never forgets us.
This is going so slow. I don't know what happened. Anything else suddenly pop up in the background? Nope. Alright. Let's hope it speeds up. Yes, her faces are all terrifying though.
Know this, whippersnapper. This old lady never forgets a slight or insult. And you won't get any information out of me. My lips are sealed. You sure are talking a lot for someone with sealed lips. Starting now. 1, 2, 3.
This lady is too much. Well, I'm not even gonna try and talk to her. Let's go. She's in my way. Let's go to the employee area. I'm waiting for this fanboy to show up. There he is. Knew he'd sneak in eventually because we opened the grate. Hey! And who wouldn't want to look at a crime scene, right? Hey, wait! I'll bet he came in right through that drain. Hey, Hideo, what's your name, sport? I'm not a kid, so don't talk to me like that.
Huh? But you are a kid. What a rude little brat.
That's no way to talk to an adult.
I don't see no adults here. Hippie fashion chick.
Hippie fashion? Nick, I think I'm being mocked. You've got to hand it to Maya. She's pretty sharp. And pretty mad.
I'm Cody. Cody Hackins. Call me a Kiddio again and I'll cut you down where you stand, evildoer.
I want to talk to this kid. I like this kid. Ask him about the Steel Samurai. So, you're a fan of the Steel Samurai?
How dare you utter that name, evildoer?
What do you mean?
We're on the Steel Samurai side. Ha 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 ha! You can't fool me!
Okay, then what's the last line said by the innkeeper in episode 8?
Ha!
Easy. Like some fries with that? Not bad, kiddio. Watch it.
What are they doing? Say, you heard anything about the incident the other day?
You were here, weren't you?
Did you see anything?
He always, the Steel Samurai always wins, always. Yeah, I saw him. I saw everything.
What?
But no way am I telling you losers. What? Wait. Let me go.
Yes, run off, child. Distract the old bag for us so that we might steal the key to Studio 2.
He's gone. Huh? Something fell off the table when he bumped into it on his way out.
A bottle? Why was this sitting there, I wonder? Empty bottle slipped into the pocket. Anyway, what was that kid saying?
He saw everything.
Witness the murder! Definitely gonna go to the main gate now.
Huh?
Where's that old windbag? Odd of her to leave her post.
Hey!
Nick, that was her!
Whippersnapper!
Yeah, sounds like she's chasing after that boy.
Nah! Uh-oh, she tripped.
Maya sure looks happy. Steal the key! Steal the key!
Hey, Nick! Now's our chance. Let's check out the yard station.
Good idea.
Oh! This is it, Nick! The trailer key. The key to that trailer in Studio 2. We'll be borrowing this, right, Nick?
Yes. Trailer key slipped into pocket. Let's go investigate. I'm scared. Oh, we gotta actually tap on the door. I wonder if the key we borrowed from the guard station will work. It opened.
Great! Let's go, Nick!
He seems eager all of a sudden.
Well, you first, Nick.
Not that eager. Let's go! October 18th, Studio 2, trailer.
Eek!
Someone's in here! Names.
Our names? We're WP's lawyers, and,
I see.
And who might you be?
Dee Vasquez, the producer.
Dee Vasquez.
I can't figure out what her name's supposed to be a pun of. Dee Vasquez. I don't know what the pun is. Obviously, Cody is like code hacking, and salmonella for salmonella. I'm like missing it. I've played this before and I couldn't figure it out before either. What if I emphasize it differently? Dee Vasquez. I don't know. I can't figure out the pun. Dee Vasquez. She's quite beautiful. Fuck to me. Say the crime. Tell me about it. I was wondering if you could tell me about the day of the murder. Miss Vasquez? Script. Excuse me? Script. I'm looking for a script. Script? The Steel Samurai, episode 13. I need it.
Could we ask you a bit about the day of the murder?
I need to read it. We're getting nowhere fast. Try and ask her about the show.
But we'd really like to ask you about the Steel Samurai.
Miss Vasquez? It's on TV every week. That is all I have to say about that.
Nick, she's telling us to go watch TV? The nerve of her! Hey, don't get mad at me.
I'm gonna save because it's getting real slow, and that always concerns me a little. Alright, I'm gonna move. I know where the script is. It's on the chair in Studio 2. Or in Studio 1. I think. Right there. Is that it?
Hey, look! That's the chair the director sits in. I've always wanted to sit in one of these. Hey Nick, take a look at that! One of those black and white boards they clap at the start of filming. And look, a megaphone! A real live megaphone! Ready, Nick? Action!
This girl is more troubled than I thought. That's not the script? Alright, I guess we have to go get it from the director then. Presumably he is also the, showrunner. Scriptwriter. Looks like, old bag is still after that kid. Oh no, not that one. What? Okay, well I don't know where the thing is then. I'll go. There's nothing to talk to him about. I'll go talk to the producer again, I guess. Ah, keep pressing the wrong one. About the director. Salmonella, was it? What exactly is his role here? Perhaps I didn't make myself clear. I'm looking for a script. I can't be bothered with anything else.
Nick? Are all people in the entertainment business this weird?
It's starting to look like it.
Nick, let's get out of here. Isn't there someplace else we have to check?
Yeah. Wait. Yes? If you see Manila, give him this.
Why do we have to run your errands?
I don't think I like her. Does have a cool design. Don't cry. Don't cry. She'll take it as a sign of weakness. Alright, we'll give it to him if we see him. Move. Can't believe I just had to do that one extra line of dialogue and I could have not had to go all this way twice. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Main gate. Employee area. I'm trying to think of now that you've mentioned character design, I'm trying to think who my favorite character design is out of all the characters in the game. Yeah, what dressing room? Probably Maya's cousin, Pearl, who we haven't met yet in this one, but she's a little like 8-year-old girl and she is the most adorable thing in the world. Okay. Let's give him that note. Here. I got this from the producer.
Huh? Bring me the script for episode...
What was his voice? Now I can't remember it.
Bring me the script for episode 13.
Episode 13. Where did I put that one? I must have left it somewhere. Uh-oh. My ass is pwned if I don't find it.
Nick? It might be quicker to just look in all the places where he's likely to have been.
I agree. I bet it is on that chair that I checked earlier. Cause the description was like a chair and a script. That's one thing that this game doesn't like, is if you think 2 steps ahead, you can get a little bit screwed over. Main gate. It started raining.
We're back at the scene of the crime. Let's find what we need and get out of here quick, Nick.
On the chair!
Hey, look! That's the chair that the director sits in. I've always wanted to sit in one of these.
The director? Maya! Take a look around that chair for me, would you? Remember that script the director was talking about? Didn't he say he'd left it somewhere?
Ah! Found it, Nick! The script!
Good work. Script placed in pocket. Alright, let's go see if this lady will talk now. And Studio 2. I know I have so much trouble reading the locations. Trailer. Here, I brought you something. Here, we found it. Your script.
Ah.
Script handed to D. Vasquez. You're not going to talk to us?
Quiet. I am reading. Just you hold on! What's the big idea? Who do you think you are anyway? And do you even know who we are?
Powers lawyers?
Right.
Am I a suspect?
No, it's just... Well, no, but...
You wanted to know about the day of the murder?
Yes. Anything you could tell us would be a big help.
You know there was a meeting here at noon. Yes, with the director and the people from the network. Correct. Now listen closely. None of the people in this trailer that afternoon went to Studio 1. It was impossible for Such a tense moment, stop freezing! It was impossible for us to leave.
Impossible? Why?
The path was blocked. The path? Talk. Talk to me! On the day of the murder, the path that leads to here was blocked. You saw Mr. Monkey on your way down here, on your way here, correct? Mr. Monkey? The monkey with the broken head. Oh, right. That. What an original name. Its head fell over in the wind on the day of the murder. They didn't start moving the head out of the way until after 3 o'clock. It was after 4 by the time the path was unblocked. Capis? Ah, she's Italian! Okay, now I have to swing the voice I've been doing a little bit more Italian gradually. Everyone in this trailer was stuck here until the path was cleared.
Stuck in this trailer, stuck until after 4. Hammer died at 2:30. Thus, none of us could have gone to Studio 1.
What?
It's true. A crane came just after 3 to move the head. We called some people in to clear the way. I'm sure they'd corroborate my story.
But wait! I think I'm just gonna keep doing the same voice. I don't know how to do an Italian accent except for like, it's a me, Mario! What if the head fell over after 2:30? Then you could have gone to Studio 1.
2:30, the time of death. Very well. Come. That's Mr. Monkey. When it wasn't broken, it announced the time in ooks. 1 ook per hour. Ook, ook, ook. Always with the ooking.
It is a monkey after all.
Check its head. The clock inside stopped when it broke.
Nick! It stopped at 2:15! 2:15?
That's right. This path was blocked from 2:15 till after 4:30.
After 4, I don't know why I added another 30 there.
Therefore, we're innocent.
Mr. Hammer died in Studio 1 at 2:30.
See? Goodbye.
Mr. Monkey's head data added to the court record.
What do we do, Nick? There isn't anyone besides WP who could have killed Hammer.
It's over. We're finished. It sure doesn't look good. Guess we should head back to the office and plan our strategy. No! RIP! I don't like this. I've played this before, and I don't remember what else happens. All I know is that we do not have nearly enough information to solve the case yet. October 18th, Wright and Co. Law Offices.
Now what?
Oh, now what? We're fresh out of clues. Everyone's alibi is watertight. We don't even have any promising leads. Things are looking pretty grim. I don't know whose voice this is. It's a little early for giving up, don't you think? Huh? You've got 1 lead. But Mia, it's you! What took you so long?
Sorry, Phoenix. Maya has trouble calling me unless she's really in trouble.
Right. Oh wait, I guess that means we're really in trouble. Yes, so our character is Phoenix Wright. We're not a detective, but we have to do our own investigation because the prosecution's office basically keeps the detectives like quiet so that we can't have information on their case. So the reason we're doing all this our own deductive work is basically to be able to have a fighting chance against the prosecution. It really just plays out like we're also detectives, but the idea is that we're lawyers, and also my assistant Maya, the teenage girl in the crazy outfit, is a spirit medium. This is her sister. Oh wait, I have to point this. This is her sister who died in a previous case, and she can be called back from the dead when Maya's panicking and offer us help. she is also my former boss, so she was also a lawyer. And the lion guy is our client. He is accused of murdering his co-star, Jackhammer. Yeah. So her clothes stay the same, but her physical body turns into, like, the person that she's possessed by. Probably so that the artist could do this much cleavage. Yeah, so we're defending Will Powers, the lion guy, and the victim is his co-star. The Maya is a spirit medium, and we're an attorney, and Edgeworth is the prosecutor on the case, and he comes back a lot in the stories. Okay, continuing on. Hopefully that recaps everything. Also, there's a Detective Gumshoe is the lead detective on most cases, and is a bit, loosey-goosey with information sometimes if we're sneaky about it. We can get information from him. I'd say so. What did you mean we have one lead? The boy, of course.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw everything. What?
But no way am I telling you losers.
I don't know. He didn't sound like he was going to help us at all.
I'm sure you could find some way of bringing him over to your side. Either way, we should go back to the studios. That boy is our last hope, Phoenix.
Thanks. Now I'm more worried than I was before. Alright. Gotta move on. October 18th. Global Studios. Main gate. What's wrong? Oh my god, this is gonna make me lightheaded.
Whippersnapper!
She's been chasing that boy this whole time? When I catch him, Sounds like she hasn't had any luck catching him.
I got a hostage now, Whippersnapper.
A hostage? Oh my god, that made me really lightheaded. What's this about a hostage?
When that boy was running away.
No, stop running slow.
He dropped this and ran off. He'll come back. For this one.
It's kind of hard to understand with all that huffing and puffing. Phoenix, that hostage might be what we need. Cody might talk to us if we gave him that. Good idea, Miss Oldbag. Might I?
No! I'm catching that brat if it's the last thing I do!
Phoenix, you have anything you might trade with her? A trade, I wonder. I kinda already asked her about those other things. Let's just see what we have in the court record. She was a fan of Hammer. No, nothing yet. Okay. Let's see. I guess we'll talk to her about those last 2 points just in case. Ask her about the director. Actually, I met with the director just now.
Eh? Huh. My heart. I don't feel so good.
Is she okay?
Before I go, I'd like to visit the place where poor Hammer died.
Right. She was saying she wanted to visit the studio where he died. She was? What happened to the boy?
If I see him again, I'll lay him flat.
My, what a violent old lady. Oh! If we offer her the card key, she can go to the studio.
Hey, that's a card. Studio 1?
Right. A card key to Studio 1.
I could visit poor Hammer.
I'd like to visit. He died.
I was his fan.
You don't have your own card, Miss Oldbag?
Studio 1 isn't my turf. You'll let me borrow it then?
If I give her the card key, then I won't be able to get into Studio 1. Give her the key. Why don't you let her borrow it, Phoenix? I guess it can't hurt. Here you go, Miss Oldbag. Card key lent to Miss Oldbag.
Listen to me, Sonny. I don't like having debts to no whippersnappers. You take this and we're even. Deal?
What's this? A Steel Samurai trading card?
That sneaky kid dropped it. I figured it's pretty important to him, though.
Thank you. I may have a use for this. This must be the hostage she was talking about. Let's go find that kid!
Right. I'm off.
There she goes, hobbling toward the studio. He's probably in the employee area. October 18th, Global Studios, employee area. Hey! Damn it. Hey, you! Wait a sec! Phoenix, was that the boy? Yeah. His name's Cody Hackins. I think he ran into the dressing room. Okie dokie. October 18th, Global Studios, dressing room. He's sure to be in here somewhere. Found you! Damn it, he's getting away! Come back! There, he's back. How did she? Hey there, would you mind helping us out? Please? I'm Cody. Hello, Cody. I'm Mia Fey. Nice to meet you. Yo! And I'm Phoenix Wright.
Who asked?
Phoenix, you can take it from here. I'm not so sure I'm qualified. Ask him about the Steel Samurai again. The Steel Samurai's so cool. I think he's the bomb.
Ha! What would a lamer like you know about it? About the Steel Samurai?
Hey,
Watch that attitude. Phoenix, you really shouldn't yell like that. He's only a kid. Yeah, don't yell like that. I'm only a kid. What happened? So, do you know anything about what happened here?
This kid's adorable. I don't care if he's a brat. So, do you like anything about what, do you know anything about what happened here? Could you tell me, please?
I don't know nothing.
Looks like a little persuasion is necessary. A bribe, maybe? A bribe, methinks? Go! Blue Eyes White Dragon! Cody, does this look familiar?
Hey! But you are!
You are, huh? Huh. I don't think I've actually watched any samurai anime, surprisingly.
You are! You know, ultra rare? That card's really hard to get. Man, for a grown-up, you sure are dumb. Ouch.
Tension. I've not seen that one. I think. Yeah, no, I mean, the name would probably be pretty similar if it's just like the. It's probably because that sounds like a Japanese word, right? So usually it would probably be the same. Like if it was an actual translation of a title, then it would make sense if it was different in English, but it's probably the same thing. I'll give you this if you help me.
But that's my card! By offering me something I already own, you're in effect eschewing the very basics of our consumer society, namely the principle of fair trade. Man, for a grown-up, you sure are dumb.
What do they teach these kids in school these days? Quantum physics? Bro, that was economics.
Whatever, I don't need that card. Huh? I got a double. Just keep it. It's yours.
What? After I went through all that trouble?
If you want to trade, find me a really rare card.
Really rare? You mean there's something rarer than ultra rare?
Ultra rare premium cards are way rarer than plain ultra rare cards. Come on! Man, for a grown-up, you sure are dumb.
Yeah, Phoenix, for a grown-up, you sure are. Premium rare. Why do I feel like we're talking about stakes? Man, it's like Pokemon card trading is so is the only one I got into. And there's like EX cards and like you can evolve your Pokemon into a regular card or an EX card, but you can't. Or no, I don't remember if or you have to have the regular one before you could make it an EX card or something. I can't remember now. There's shinies and reverse shinies and or foils, reverse foils, and I don't know. Sometimes the edge is reflective, and sometimes just the background of the picture is reflective, and sometimes only the Pokemon's reflective. Sometimes the whole thing's reflective, and they make different patterns for the foil. Trading cards are insane. What the hell? What specifically? My rant about Pokemon cards or something the kid said? Oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh is arguably even more insane, but from like a gameplay perspective more than Pokemon. Pokemon's pretty consistent other than that it's had like some really bad power creep problems. Um, I think the max HP a Pokemon could have originally was like 150, and now it's like 600. Where am I going? I don't know, let's just go look around for people. 'Cause I actually didn't get into Pokemon trading cards until like, I don't know, until I kind of had like a Pokemon resurgence in my like teen years when Black and White came out. Because I had only ever played Pokemon Blue, like a ROM on my home computer. And then I found out because my friend was playing Pokemon Black or White on on the DS at school, and I was like, oh my god, they're still making Pokemon games? What? I need this! And then immediately got back into it. I think I got gold, my brother and I got Heart Gold and Soul Silver too, right after Black and White came out. It's, yeah, I got into the trading cards at that point because my parents started buying us trading cards as like gifts and stuff because you're into Pokemon, and I was just super into like collecting all of them. I didn't really care about the gameplay. My little brother cared about the gameplay though, so he built his decks based on like actual some level of strategy as much as like a 9-year-old kid can have. Meanwhile, I was just like, I don't know, all my cards are just like, because I want all the different ones. So none of them were like, I didn't acquire them for strategy.
Oh, hi.
Hello? What brings you here?
Oh, well, I had to arrange some stuff.
Yes?
The girl with you. Doesn't she seem a little different? Like, is she even the same person as before?
Nope. She's the same as always. Same as always.
Okay, whatever you say.
You like trading cards? Have you seen that boy since then?
Nope. You missed it though. The security lady was chasing around after the boy so fast I thought she'd collapse. Of course, he got away. In the end. Boy, was she mad.
Actually, we saw them. How's the old windbag doing?
She was squeezing donuts through her clenched fist back at the guard station.
Some people take their jobs a little too seriously. Yeah, that's true. They're so expensive and they're just gonna keep printing more cards that are better. And they keep expanding the rules, so like, I mean, I know meta needs to change. Excuse me. But like, if you just keep printing more cards that are strategically better or changing the rules to have different playstyle, then it's hard to keep up. Are all of the posters on the wall here of Hammer?
Yes. It's a really terrible loss for the studios.
But his popularity had been waning recently, right?
That's true. Then again, after what happened...
After what happened?
You mean you don't know about the Hammer? About Hammer?
I know I said the... No. What?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything.
No! No, you can't just leave it at that. Wait, now you have to tell me. What happened with Hammer?
I'm sorry. I'm probably not the one who should tell you.
Uh-oh. Why do I get the feeling something's being covered up here? But do you like trading cards? But do you like trading cards? Do you know anything about this?
Hey, that's a Steel Samurai trading card. I collect those, actually. I'm one card away from a complete set.
A complete set?
Yeah, a set of one of each card.
Me. Huh?
Wait. Wait. That's it. That's the card I need. You don't know how long I've been looking for it.
Uh,
I don't care what kind of girl you might think I am. I need that card. Please, I beg you. Please trade with me.
Trade with you?
Yes, trade cards. Look, I'll even trade you an ultra rare premium card.
Trade me a... Huh?
Yes, it's a good deal for your ultra rare.
Please! Nailed it. Phoenix, can't you see she's desperate? What's everybody getting so excited about? Trade the cards! You need a premium ultra rare, Phoenix! Jeez, you're pretty dumb for a grown-up. Okay.
Really? Thanks. And this is for you.
URP card added to the record.
Yahoo!
And there she goes. Doesn't doing things like that make you feel great? Yeah, it does. Yes. Go talk to Cody. Main gate. No, employee area. Like, I was just like hanging out in the dressing room the whole time. See this card?
Yeah, so? Wait! That's it! That's the last ultra rare premium card I need! Come on, give it to me, please! Gotta give it to me!
Wow, I've never seen him so eager. Right, okay. How about a trade?
You're on! I'll give you a samurai spear and throw in an evil magistrate to boot.
No, not that kind of trade. I don't want cards. I want information.
Huh? You sure? Fine by me.
URP card given to Cody. Okay, Phoenix, let's hear what he has to say. If he knows something that could help us, we can have him take the stand tomorrow. Let's, save. Alright, Steel Samurai, tell me all about it. So, you like the Steel Samurai?
He's so cool!
I guess.
You're judging him by his looks. You have to look at the actions and at his life.
I'm being lectured on life by a grade schooler.
You like him too, don't ya?
Oh, me? Yeah. I, love the Steel Samurai.
So tell me what your favorite thing about his Steel Samurai is.
I like his fighting skills. Gotta think of... I like it when he, vanquishes his foes.
Yeah, wazam! The Steel Samurai always wins. Always! Check this out. It's my fan album.
What the? It's all pictures of Steel Samurai.
I go to every live performance.
Those stupid publicity stunts where they beat each other up in public?
I always take a picture when the Steel Samurai lands the final blow. Wazam! I got 'em all. I never missed one. A perfect collection. Check it out! My new digital camera!
Wow, that's very impressive.
The newest model, isn't it? You bet, lady! I just got it for my birthday! My album has a name. Want to hear it? The Steel Samurai, Path to Glory.
I remember my first digital camera. Oh man, that rinky-dink little thing. Wasn't my first camera. I had film cameras before that, but it was like tiny, super lightweight, and it didn't have a screen, so you couldn't like look back at your photos unless you actually like loaded them onto a computer. So you still had to look like through the eyepiece, slightly adjust up because the lens is a little bit lower, and then hope that your picture came out well.
Steel Samurai always wins. Always. Hey,
I keep saying that.
Hey, if you want this, you can have it, lady.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah, I took these with the digital camera. I got all the data at home, so I can always make another one.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, I don't know, taking film photos had like a similar, it wasn't very different from taking film photos really, in that it was just like, you don't get to see how it comes out until later. I also had like a really fancy film camera at some point. I think later than the digital camera, because it would have, like, that technology was like so not there yet that the digital camera was like pretty bad. Like, it was very grainy. So I had like a fancy film camera that had like a remote shutter button, like a selfie, a little like convex selfie mirror. It had a timer and like a bunch of fancy stuff to like make it more functional and more practical for like different uses. That's pretty neat. And all those like cereal box cameras. I remember they had the Kellogg's cereal had like cameras as like the little prize inside back when they used to do that. I had a bunch of those. And a bunch of underwater cameras, because you could only buy disposable underwater cameras. You couldn't buy like regular cameras to go underwater. Anyway, back to the game.
Well then, I'm happy to accept it.
Thank you.
Path to Glory received.
What's with people always giving stuff to Mia?
What a life.
I was into photography as a kid, actually. I'm not like as big into like just photography anymore, which is, that's a little bit, I don't know, it's just not one of my main hobbies, but I do still like taking pictures of things, and I did specifically buy like the new iPhone 11 Pro because of its camera, or because of its three lenses, so it's not all digital zoom. So I guess I do like cameras. I got a lot of them. I still probably have all the old fancy film cameras. I have like a one of those like really old, like predates me technology that you can like look down into and it shows like what the aperture sees, that my uncle gave me because he's like big into film and photography. But okay, let's ask him what happened. That's cool. I kind of want to do some like video making, but it's just, it feels like such a big task. Like, you have to film, edit, like, you know, cut things together, music and audio, and it just seems very daunting. But yeah, it'd be fun to do something. I have like some projects that I could just film like top down on my desk as I do them, and then maybe edit them into something. And I have some vintage toys that I'm gonna try and refurbish, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I might film that and then edit together. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not gonna do it on stream. But yeah. Okay, let's talk to Cody. You were here on the day of the incident, right?
Yeah.
Did you see anything unusual?
Cody? Cody, he needs to know because he's fighting for justice. Isn't that the Steel Samurai's motto? For great justice? You have to help us fight for great justice too. I saw everything. Well, we might get some useful information out of him yet. What did you see? Cody, I need to ask you something very important. What did you see on the day of the incident? Mysterious music. I got here that day around 2 o'clock. I had to come in through the woods out back so that the old lady wouldn't see me. I got kinda lost though. I was in there for maybe half an hour or so. Then I finally got to the studio. After that... What is it, Cody? The Steel Samurai killed the bad guy. He used a samurai spear. Just like always, one shot, one kill. It happened so fast. I got scared. I went home after that.
I see. It must have been hard for you.
Man, you say those nice things, but it's so obvious you aren't speaking from the heart.
Right. Mia?
Yes?
I think we can say for sure this means the Steel Samurai did it.
True enough.
And the director has an alibi, so it wasn't him. Indeed. So, the only person left who it could have been is Will Powers. I have to admit, it's kind of a shock. But if you put this boy on the witness stand, your client will be guilty for sure. Let's not call him then. I think that would be wise. Best to leave this one alone. Not so fast, pal! I heard everything! This boy here is a key witness. And he's under police protection starting now. Come on, son. You've got a rendezvous with me down at the precinct.
No, I ain't going. Ah!
That didn't go so well. We're back to 0 leads. And now we have a serious handicap in the court. But what are we going to do, Mia? Well, I really need to be going. Don't worry, Phoenix. I'm sure you'll be fine. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Come to the trial tomorrow, please. I need you there. Phoenix, can I ask you something? Do you really believe that Mr. Powers is innocent? I mean, like, unless he slept there, he seems like way too gentle of a guy. I believe. Of course he is! That's all I wanted to hear. Excellent. I'll see you in court then. Great! Thanks, Mia! See you soon. To be continued. Alright, should I continue or should I stop? Save. Bleep, 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 bleep. Do I want to do more court? What day is it? It's Thursday? I got nothing better to do. I think we're having leftovers for dinner, so I don't have to cook or anything. I am gonna turn on my my light. latitude is Germany at? Is it? I'm like pretty, like, as south as you can be in Canada, and we have like no daylight. It's like, well, okay, that's not true, but it's dusk now. Not enough light to illuminate a room through a window anymore, and it's only like 5 o'clock. And it's already like February too. It was way worse in December. Okay, Will. Mr. Wright? Yes? Why do you look so unhappy? Oh, nothing. Really, it's nothing. I always picture him doing the little, like, that animation. Right, Mia? Uh-oh, she looks even unhappier. Phoenix. Aw, I had 2 viewers, now I have 1. Okay, so probably further south. Okay. I thought I had someone else show up, but they just left, and I'm trying to decide if I should start the trial or not. It's probably gonna be like, let me think, it's probably gonna be like an hour. So I might actually wait until next week, because otherwise it's gonna have to cut off the trial in the middle of the trial. Okay, yeah, no. Sorry, I know I just said I was gonna keep going, but I have changed my mind because I put my headphones back on, and it always, like, it hurts my ear where the headphones press onto my glasses. Getting sun at about 9 in the morning and like, okay. Yeah, I think we have, like, oh, what the time sunrise? It's light around, like, probably 9 or so in the morning. And then, yeah, and then now it's like, it's dusk. The sun's definitely been gone for a bit, but there's still light in the sky, but not enough to see, like, not enough to illuminate a room. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna stop it there because my ear hurts. Those headphones are the worst. Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out. It's good to have you, and I hope you'll be back to see how the rest of the case goes. Gotta solve that mystery. Anyways, I'll see you next time.